Look, it was a lot of haters hating on Aliyah Boston before the season started. Oh, she looked bad. Is this and that. Based it off what they seen in Unrivaled. Told y'all, bro. Aliyah Boston gonna ball out, bro.
She does. She used her elbows a bit too much. It's on the referees to call that. But I mean this when I say this. An offensive foul does not warrant a swipe to the face.
The Indiana Fever didn't lose to the Wings. The referees made sure of that. Aliyah Boston was whistled for a hold after being clamped under the rim. Kelsey Mitchell got hammered with no calls, and Sophie Cunningham was flagged when the exact same play had been ruled the opposite earlier. It wasn't sloppy play that ended Indiana's comeback. It was consistent, one-sided officiating. And once you see how it unfolded, you'll realize this wasn't just unfair, it was rigged. Before we move on, I will like you to subscribe to the channel and like the video. How does a call that gets reviewed still end up being wrong? That's the question everyone had in their heads the second the refs came back from the monitor. You'd think instant replay exists to clear things up, to correct errors in the moment. But in this game, it did the total opposite. It actually made things more confusing and way more frustrating for the Indiana Fever. This wasn't just a normal missed call. It was slowed down, rewound, watched from multiple angles, and then confirmed as if the evidence didn't matter at all. Picture the scene. Aliyah Boston's locked in under the rim, trying to take her spot on the block. She plants her feet, her arms are up, she's bracing for contact. The Dallas Wings defender already has an arm hooked tightly around her waist. It's right there for anyone to see. They're the ones initiating contact, dragging her body away from the paint. And yet, somehow, when the whistle blew, the officials pointed at Boston. Offensive foul. The crowd sat in silence for a second, not even sure what they had heard. Then the boos poured in, because it made absolutely no sense in real time. Now here's the kicker. The refs took it to review. This is where everyone in the arena thought, okay, they'll fix it now. Even the analysts on the broadcast were almost certain you couldn't look at that replay and not switch the foul. Boston's arm wasn't locked around anyone.
If Tina Charles flops, it probably is an offensive foul. So then they get tangled up, and Tina Charles, they're kind of getting tangled up there, and Tina Charles clocks in the face.
Made really good decisions, had each other's back. Highest level of consistent communication we've probably had all year.
She's the one being held. Fans on social media slowed it down, froze the frame, highlighted the defender's hook grip like it was plain as day. But when the ref came back, they doubled down. They stood in front of the scorer's table, held out 2 fingers, and called it on Boston like nothing had changed at all. You could hear the broadcast team trying to stay professional while breaking down how wild that decision was. They replayed it again for the television audience, and every time they paused the tape, Boston was clearly the one being restricted. When you add this to what's been happening all season, that's where things start to feel like a pattern. Boston has had stretches of games where she can't even catch a post entry without being shoved on her lower back or grabbed by the arm. And instead of calling it, the refs will sometimes flip it against her, like she's the aggressor. And then comes Sophie Cunningham. In that very same game, Cunningham drove to the rim and got tangled on a play. It went to review for a flagrant. On the replay, there didn't seem to be much more contact than the usual physical bump you expect on drives. Still, the refs went ahead and gave Dallas the benefit and slapped the flagrant. Compare that to earlier in the night, when Indiana ran the same type of action and didn't get a thing for it. Dallas drives, flagrant. Fever drives, play through it. The inconsistency is what stung the most. By the time the analysts made their closing comments about the incident, the disbelief was obvious. They weren't calling it a minor mistake. They were hinting that this went beyond just one bad look at the screen. For Boston and really the whole Fever team, it felt targeted. A different standard applied depending on the jersey color, and that's the type of thing that makes players feel like the outcome isn't being decided by them, but by whistles. And if you thought the in-game reactions were intense, just wait until you hear what head coach Stephanie White had to say once the final buzzer sounded.
Just behind her name and her coming out, for her to handle that with such grace and every game show up and show out for us, the sky is the limit for her.
The referees chose not to look at the monitor. Aliyah Boston spends a good 10 seconds lying on the ground after this.
What happens when a head coach actually says out loud what the players have been holding in all season? That's exactly what Stephanie White did, and you could see in her face that it wasn't about one call or even one game anymore. She walked into that press conference already frustrated, microphone in front of her, cameras rolling, and she unleashed what everyone in Indiana has been whispering for weeks. This wasn't a rant. This was her laying it out point by point, making it clear she was was done watching her team get pushed around with no accountability from the officials. She started with Kelsey Mitchell. White pointed out how Mitchell, one of the fastest guards in the league, can't even move without someone tugging on her jersey or shoving her off her path. And yet there's no whistle. Imagine watching possession after possession where Mitchell gets grabbed off the ball, arms hooked, body checked by defenders before she ever touches it, and nothing is called. We've all seen guards complain about contact, but this is on another level. There's actual footage where Mitchell tries to cut across the baseline and a defender literally throws a hip into her ribs. Play continues like it's clean defense. Announcers actually pause mid-sentence because they expect the whistle, but then have to keep going when nothing happens. White didn't stop there. She dropped the line that hit the hardest. She said Aliyah Boston is the worst officiated post player in the entire league. Think about how strong that is from a coach. You're not saying she gets a tough whistle now and then. You're saying night after night she is treated differently than her opponents. And when it comes from a head coach, it lands a lot heavier than when players complain.
But shout out to Aliyah Boston coming through. Somebody said Aliyah take a bow. Yes. Final score 94-86. Great win for the Fever, who needed to bounce back, especially in the fourth, bro.
Like, she literally had a wind-up smack to the face, and then she's being dramatic for falling on the ground. I'm sorry. These people are like, they're deranged.
Players can get brushed off as emotional, but when a coach says it on record, it's a statement. White tied it directly to competitive balance. Her point was clear. If your best players don't even have the chance to compete fairly, then the game itself isn't fair. It's rare to hear a coach go this hard on officials in the WNBA. Sure, they'll often mention tough calls or say, "We didn't get the whistle tonight," but this was more than the usual coach speak. White made it personal. She called out patterns. She named her players. She gave specifics. You don't usually get that level of honesty with cameras in the room because coaches know the league office is watching. That's why it shocks so many people to see White lean straight into it, knowing fines and punishment are probably coming. And that's the tension here. On one hand, her comments put pressure on the league. They can't just ignore a coach saying their star post player isn't getting fair treatment. Fans are already upset, analysts are picking it apart, and now the spotlight is wider. But on the other hand, the league might come down harder on White for criticizing officials publicly. There's a history of coaches getting fined for even mild complaints. If they hammer her with a penalty, they basically dodge the conversation by making her the one at fault, not the refs.
AB career high 31.
It's just annoying. It's annoying to look at this type of stuff happening for the Indiana Fever. Like, they are the worst refereed team in the league.
This game wasn't just about missed shots or turnovers. It showed a system that works against Aliyah Boston and the Fever. When the whistle goes one way every time, no team can win on skill alone. That's bigger than one loss. It's proof the odds are stacked. And if Indiana can't even get fair treatment in the regular season, what happens when the playoffs begin? Every possession matters even more, and calls like these can decide who advances. So I want to know, do you think this is corruption or just incompetence? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.